Session X. Session X. Another shout out to the introverts, I suppose. Return to normal. Are you all trained now? Can I stay home forever? The greatest threat to productivity. Introverts unite. What am I getting at here? A painful truth, right? Math is like riding a bike. It's fun if you're good at it. It's hard work otherwise. And the only way you improve is by doing it. There's no other way around it. Now, it can also be fun. Well, being confident is fun. Appearing intelligent is fun. And now I said appear. You don't actually have to be intelligent. I mean, one of my favorite moments in time was in 1997 when I was in the UK and I was asked what uni I attended. And I was actually kind of proud of the fact that I hadn't attended university and was finding some success and forming a partnership with this company in the UK. And I was at this fancy country club and meeting with the owners and the VP and the head of marketing and everything else. But my answer to that question, as I learned when it came to English culture, was not the right answer. Suggesting, acknowledging that I had not gone to university was not the right way to go. But because I'm just a voracious reader, and I still tend to read at least a book a week, and by read, I mean listen. Now I probably listen to 2 books a week. I have a bigger vocabulary, perhaps, than somebody who hasn't gone to university. So I get mistaken for having gone to university. So like I say, you can appear intelligent even when you're maybe not. Not that I'm saying you have to go to university to be intelligent, but I think you get what I'm saying. So quality advice, right? This was probably the best advice I was ever given in this business. And I was given it early on. Thanks again, Rob. Key point, position yourself as an expert. This is like the single biggest piece of advice. If I look back now at all the different things I've been told, lots of them are good, right? The only economy that matters is the one between your own ears. Lots of great things I've picked up over the years. This one stands out. Position yourself as an expert. And it's not that hard to do. It's just not. It's a little bit of work. You have to convince yourself that math is going to be fun. Math may not be fun, but being an expert in your subject is, right? And an expert is somebody who knows their stuff. And life is an open book exam. I mean, math is actually pretty easy now with all the tools we have, the mobile app. Man, that refinance analyzer, pure gold. I mean, Ben, straight up genius in our industry, phenomenal. But life is basically an open book exam. The answers are all there. We can figure all of this out. You've got the tools, use them. Figuring out these math shortcuts is not difficult. So, how to be an expert? You gotta think like an expert. So you're going to ask yourself some questions and have the answers ready for when you get asked them. Never assume that anyone knows anything, right? Again, the mortgage prepayment penalty piece that we've outlined, that math around that, understanding the percentage of the balance that will be the penalty and being able to articulate that, that positions you as somebody in the know. That positions you as the expert. And when I say never assume anyone knows anything, you know who your biggest problem client is going to be? It's going to be your number one realtor. Because you're going to assume that they know a whole bunch more about the mortgage business than they do. And you're potentially going to bend for that friend, you're going to take a couple shortcuts, and it's not going to work out well. How to? Create a list of questions, work out the answers. That's what we're going to dig into this. Credit card math. I'm going to supply you with a list of questions. Don't worry, you don't have to come up with these on your own. Here they come. So credit card math, calculating your balance, right? You take the $13,000 balance, you look at the minimum payment due, the interest rate, 20%. Oh my gosh, how is that still allowed? Like how have they left credit card interest rates at the exact same rate for like 40 years and nothing? It's incredible. The thing to pay attention to is the very last sentence here. 108 years and 7 months. That's the effective amortization of this loan that I have received. How am I able to get a loan for 13 grand with a 108-year amortization? It's mind-blowing, isn't it? It kind of has you wondering, like a loan of 13.6, 108-year amortization, like this is nuts. But what do we know about this, okay? Okay, look, I might have chopped the slide out, but the thing that people always get worked up about is the government. The government doesn't guarantee credit card debt. The government backs mortgages. So the government cares about mortgages. The government doesn't care about credit cards. It's a self-sufficient industry. Here's what we know. Here's what's in our control. We know that that balance is going to have a 3% minimum payment applied to it because that's an unsecured debt. $410 a month. What else do we know about $410 a month? We know that that's right in the wheelhouse of a monthly payment per 100,000. I believe right now it's around $360 to $440, depending on rate and amortization, depending on variable, 30-year versus fixed 25-year. So we're right in the wheelhouse there. So we know that $13,000 balance is basically canceling out $100,000 worth of mortgage money. We also know that $100,000 worth of mortgage money requires what to qualify? About $20,000 worth of income. It used to require $15,000. When did that change? January 1st, 2018, when the BS stress test came out. A totally unnecessary thing that kneecapped the lower and the middle of the middle class and took us all, I say us because that's how I grew up, middle class, took us all out of the market. My own children don't qualify for anywhere near what I qualified for at their age, dollar for dollar. They are not able to enter the market the way I was able to, purely because of the stress test, because of government regulations that have made it more difficult for the typical Canadian to buy a home. It's backwards thinking, that whole stress test, but I will not rant any further. So we know that this $14,000, I'm going to round it up, credit card debt, with the $400 payment for debt servicing cancels out $100,000 worth of mortgage money and basically cancels out $20,000 worth of income. Except when it doesn't, right? Except when it doesn't. It does do all of this, except there are instances where that unsecured debt maybe has a limit of $50,000 or the limit can be bumped to $50,000, and some lenders will then term it out. They'll term it out and treat the payment differently than the 3%. They'll actually use a termed out payment. Now, who's that lender? You got to figure that out, right? I don't want to name lenders. Why am I not going to name the lender? Because that policy could change overnight. But right now, that is an existing lender with one of our major lenders, arguably the biggest lender in the broker channel. There you have it. So you got to be cautious with that, right? There's the sidebar. I knew I had it in there. Why doesn't the government care? As I say, the government's not on the hook for credit card debt. They're on the hook. And they're not really on the hook for mortgage debt either, but they like to say they are. They like to say they are. A cool car or home. This was one of my most popular blog posts ever. What do you want? You want a cool car or do you want a home? Because you got to pick one. You can't have both. That $400 a month car payment cancels out what? We just did the math. 100 grand worth of mortgage money, 20 grand of your income. I remember the young guy, personal trainer, making 80 grand a year, wanted to buy a condo. He had a sweet 7 Series Beamer, beautiful, brand new car, $2,200 a month payment. I'm like, dude, your car payment completely wipes out your income. That was back when it was 15 grand, not 20 per 100. It didn't matter. It still canceled out the entire income. He had no income. I'm like, it's like you're unemployed. If you get rid of the car, we can get you $500,000. But if you're going to keep the car, you get $0. So you pick. What do you want? Right? He chose the car. He chose the car. The car is now worth The car is now worth about 12 grand, and the property he could have bought is now worth 1.3 million from 500. He would have put 100 down. Actually, no, he would have put 20 down. He would have been a 5% buyer, 25 grand down. His 25 grand would have turned into about 700,000, but he wanted that cool car, which he paid over 100 for, and is now worth maybe 15 to 20 grand. Speaking of cars, this is an interesting one too, and I put this in here because it is so wacky. I just love sharing it, but also because experts are everywhere. And when you're doubting that you can master this mortgage math and speak fluently in mortgageese, trust me, you're going to be okay. Experts are everywhere. Think about tires. You would not think that tire guys were necessarily, or tire people were necessarily experts at math. But they are. Check out this ninja level stuff they have to do. I don't know if the United Nations got together to figure out tire sizes, but a 245 50/20 or a 215 75 15 is all like, what is all of this? What does all of this mean? 215 75 15. It means the tire is 215 millimeters wide, and it means the sidewall height from the rim to the tread is measured as 75% of the 215. Whose idea was that? And it's on a 15-inch wheel. So we got metric width, percentage, height, and an imperial hole in the middle of the tire. How did, like I say, I think everybody just was arguing so much, and they'd had so much beer that by the end of the night, they said, screw it, we're gonna give everybody everything they want. You guys get the width, you guys get the diameter, the sidewall height, let's split the difference, we'll call it a percent. Like, I think that's how that is the ultimate compromise right there. But what's really interesting is if you wanna go from a 15-inch wheel to a 16 or 17, you really have to be able to do some math. Like, you need to know, for instance, that a 185 60 14 replaces a 195 50 15, replaces a 205 40 16, replaces a 205 35 17, and you might squeeze a 215 35 18 in there, but that's gonna be a little bit of an issue and probably gonna start to impact the gear ratio in the car. I can't believe I remember that. That stuff is like 15, 20 years old, but it's still in my head. That's all from a Volkswagen Rabbit. Yeah, Volkswagen Rabbit with 18s on it, that actually existed. So, as I say, anybody can master this math, right? If a tire shop crew can do it, no disrespect to the tire people at all, we can too. I'm saying they're no different than us, right? There's a lot of high school graduates in the broker community, there's a lot of high school graduates in the tire community, and we all figure out this complicated math. HELOC math, my CFP, for some reason in the hierarchical structure of bullshit professions that we all are in, I'm calling all of our professions bullshit, the CFPs somehow seem to rank in the client's minds above mortgage broker, which is always fascinating to me because, I don't know, what special course and what special continuing education do you do, and what do you actually know about mortgage world at all? You don't know anything about it. Plus, half of you guys got no plan for your own retirement, so what are we talking about here? But my CFP advised me to take this HELOC and draw it down, so I've been sitting on a $300,000 balance at prime plus a half for the last 2 years, because that's smart. In what world is that smart, right? Do the math. Do the math. I don't understand why it doesn't get done. Well, you know, the line of credit is open. So what? Calculate the crossover point, right? Prime plus a half versus prime minus 1.2. What are we talking there? What's the crossover point? What am I talking about? In a closed variable rate mortgage, which will get you a rate 1.7% lower, there's a prepayment penalty to pay the whole balance off. True. True. How much is that penalty again? It's 40 basis points right now. It's 0.4%. In other words, inside 3 months, you pay a 3-month interest penalty to be in a prime plus open over and over. You're paying that penalty 3 or 4 times a year right now. That's crazy. This is smart financial planning to pay additional interest. Well, but it's invested, so it's tax deductible. What? Tax deduction is just a different way of saying expense, which is another way to say money leaving your pocket. I do not want money to leave my pocket. The money is supposed to come into my pocket and stay in my pocket. I don't want it to leave my pocket. I certainly don't want it to leave for the sake of interest for a big bank. But my financial planner advised me on this. Well, your financial planner's a dipshit. I mean, they can't do math. They're not thinking about it. But they don't think about the bigger picture. And they don't understand prepayment penalties. They don't understand how it all works. They don't understand how it works. That's the problem. But you do. Now you do. And this is a great talking point when a client comes into your orbit with a big balance on an open line of credit, right? Or when another broker is suggesting it, right? I mean, the savings versus the penalty. It's simple math. You can do it in your head. I mean, I just kind of did it in my head. I don't even have notes on that. I just did it in my head. Always talk payment, except when you shouldn't, right? But with a AAA mortgage, AAA clients going to big bank, going to mortgage finance company, understand what your payments are, right? Understand that shortcut on the VERM and the fixed. Is it 360 to 440 right now? Hone it in and have a little cheat sheet so you can talk payment easily, right? Same with a B rate. You'd still want to be able to talk about this. And this is interesting. B world is fascinating right now. Right before Christmas, chatted with a broker, closed a client on a 3.14 5-year fixed paying 90 beeps from the lender with no lender fee. So no broker fee because you're getting paid 90 beeps anyway, no lender fee, which is incredible, and a 3.14 5-year fixed. Remarkable, right? I mean, B is absolutely worth looking at because yesterday's A minuses, yesterday's A's in some cases are today's B's. And it is worth understanding the payment differences because in B world, you can still access a 35 and sometimes even a 40-year amortization, and that can make a big difference in certain instances. Now, talking payment with a MIC, it's interest only, right? It's interest only. And I'm gonna give you a quick side note here. Pro tip, make a list of words people don't understand, and there's a great little series of Instagram posts, blogs, vlogs, whatever. Short and sweet explanations. What does amortization mean? Is that the same as Martinization? That's the dry cleaning, right? No, it's not the same as dry cleaning. It's a different thing. It's the life of the loan. The life of the loan. So like 5 years? No, that's the term. The term? The terms and conditions? No, the term isn't the length of time. I thought you said amortization was the length of time, right? You could almost do an Abbott and Costello routine with that. Ooh, I'm dating myself. Abbott and Costello. Somebody's like, who's that? An expert is what? Transparent, trustworthy, and upfront. Upfront, right? So take ownership. Yes, talk payment, but also explain principal and interest. This is really important. Own it. Own that principal and interest math. Because if you do that math for that client who's gonna go into that B mortgage or that MIC mortgage, but they were going in blind, not realizing there are absolutely people who've been with a MIC for 5 years and they haven't realized that their mortgage balance is not coming down, and they freak out when they discover it's not coming down because no one explained it to them. But if you keep that info from them, which you're not actively keeping it from them, you're just not actually having a conversation about it, it's gonna blow up in your face. You gotta get out ahead of it. Clients expect you to figure it out. They expect you to be ahead of the curve, to be their guide. Anybody can read about Everest, it's all there. I mean, I can read everything I need to know to go climb Everest. Can you tell I watched 14 Peaks? Yeah. I expect my Sherpa to take care of me. Now I'm gonna tip the heck out of that guy. $5,000 a season, tops, like wow. Almost makes you wanna go check out Everest because it sounds like it's actually affordable, which it probably isn't. But anyone can figure it out, it's not a secret, yeah, right? Just like your comp, right? It's not a secret. You feel like it's been kept secret from you, even though it's not. You know, when people discover volume bonus, they lose their mind. Everybody knows about volume bonus. The lenders don't keep it a secret. You could have asked, but you didn't ask. But the perception and the reaction are a big deal, right? How do you not know? Who's that on? Is that on you? Yeah, but who are you gonna put it on, right? Who are you gonna take it out on? Probably not yourself, right? Not totally. There will be collateral damage, right? The points, et cetera, there will be collateral damage. Things will stick with you forever. $8,000 bar tabs stick with you for 5, 6 years. You know, eventually you let that shit go, but it bubbles up every now and then, right in the middle of a presentation. Perception rules everything, right? Explaining amortization or the lack thereof, explaining the principal and interest. Yes, this rate's higher, but the payment's lower because the amortization is longer. And so you're actually paying this much principal and this much interest instead of this much principal and this much interest. Explaining that to the client scores huge points for you, right? And it's a rare thing when it actually happens. And this is one of those rare instances as well where the messenger isn't always shot. So again, when you're competing in that space and you explain all of this, the client can absolutely have a visceral reaction. They can feel like they got taken for a ride, and you don't pile on. Don't pile on. Hey, I'm sure that broker did the best they could do for you. Maybe they explained it in a different way than I explained it, like, take the high road, baby, take the high road. And you will not get shot for being the messenger on that one. Instead, the messenger can build a lasting relationship. And relationships, you know what? What's the foundation of all relationships, right? Trust, transparency. It's the foundation of every relationship. That's what it boils down to, right? Do we trust one another? If we trust one another and we're transparent with one another, we're probably going to have a lasting relationship. And let's try and keep it simple. All right? It's like you don't want to have a degree in quantum physics to calculate your own compensation. Your clients shouldn't have to have a degree in quantum physics to calculate what their actual mortgage paydown rate is, what's actually happening here, right? Clients, by the way, there's a new topic, maximum amortization. Yeah, I'm using the short, I'm saying max am. I'm allowed to do that, you're not. Maximum amortization. Clients should always, always take the maximum amortization. Is it an opinion? Is it a truth? It's based on my experience. And it wasn't a great experience. Having clients come to me who had boxed themselves into a 7-year amortization because they're going to be mortgage-free by the time they're 50. Woohoo! Great. And then at 45, all hell broke loose in their life. They say bad things come in threes. Sometimes bad things come in 3 groups of 3. They literally could have 9 things that they listed off that not one of those you would want to have happen in your world. It was unbelievable. And here's a little known fact. You can't go down to the bank and say, hey, can you just re-amortize my mortgage back out to the 30 years, please? This mortgage that I took with you 15 years ago, and it's currently down to 7 years, and we just actually locked into that 7-year am on the final bit. Can you just re-amortize that back to the original 30? Nope. Prepayment penalty. And yes, it was a 5-year fixed. And no, they had no idea the penalty would be what it was. And qualifying in the middle of what was happening in their world only could have been done in 2008. Thank goodness they were one of my first files. I learned this valuable lesson, and they were having that happen at a time when it was a lot more logical to get a mortgage funded. A lot more logical, right? All these rules that have come out, they haven't come out to protect us from ourselves. They haven't come out to stop the crash. They've come out for pure optics, politics. That's why the bulk of these rule changes have happened. We don't have an arrears rate problem in Canada. I have a slide in the conclusion that will blow your mind. Canada versus the US in arrears rates. But it's an insurance policy with no cost, just to be clear. And a client can control their amortization from the maximum to the point through prepayment privileges with most lenders that they could pay that mortgage off in 5 years if they wanted to pay it off. So that's why I always took every single refinance back out to the maximum amortization. It's going to help you qualify to buy another property if that's suddenly something you decide you want to do. Oh no, we're never going to buy another property. 2 years later, they're back. Hey, can we refinance? No, because you went 5-year fixed and the penalty's monstrous. Oh, but we need to because we wrote a firm offer on this other property. At least you're not in a, sales only clause mortgage. What are you going to do? Fixed versus variable. It's another great one to understand the math around. Make sure you understand the difference in the payment. Make sure you're communicating to the client that that entire $80 a month difference is pure interest. They're paying $1,000 per year, per $100,000 more in interest. Right now, that's the decision they're making. They're deciding to pay $5,000 in interest more on a $500,000 mortgage this year because they're worried that prime might go up later this year. It might even go all the way up to the same rate that they're paying. Oh my gosh. It's not going to. It's not going to. Not a conspiracy theorist, but when it is constantly the economists who are employed by the chartered banks saying, whoa, prime's gonna go up, lock in, like that's what they're basically putting out there, you kind of have to take a step back and be like, really? Is prime really gonna go up? Because you've been saying that for 10 years in a row, and you've been wrong every year, but you've worked at that bank for 10 years, and boy, they sure profit handsomely. You know, I think life is variable, and maybe your mortgage should be too. Geez, I feel like I could do a commercial there, right? Like, I feel like, I won't reenact that. We don't have time. Next level math. This is an older slide that I've sent to a much smarter, more plugged-in individual than me that I'm gonna get an updated version of, and I'll put this out there in the Facebook group or something. But it was really interesting to look at the average Vancouver home price, which, as you can see, this is a very dated slide. It's like 2 hours ago. It was $882. Okay, no, it wasn't 2 hours ago, but 5 years ago. Metro Vancouver was $882, the average home price. And everyone's like, $882, oh my gosh. You know, it's like, put a 1 in front of it now. But when you take the top 20% of properties out of the picture, which at the time was 1.19 to 18.5, those averaged 2 million. The bottom 80% averaged 586. So the market was a lot more affordable than people realize. 882, I'm out, I can't afford that. 80% of properties, average price is 586. Dude, there's tons of stuff to pick from, right? But the media reports these skewed numbers. And so I put this slide here, and I share this with you because I encourage you to think outside the box. Come up with the different number. Get the intel in your market. What is the bottom 80% of the market? You know, we had a $50 million sale in West Vancouver a few years back. Well, I mean, we've had a few of those. But a $50 million sale totally skews the numbers in that neighborhood for the whole year. For a month, big time. Prices are up 32% in West Vancouver. No, they're not. It's had like 4 properties that were crazy town price sell, that's all. The average price is still, call it 3 million. But suddenly it looked like it was 4 million because those big hitters pulled it up. Again, it's just a different way to think, right? And paying attention to all these different numbers is really important. It gives you, again, interesting talking points, like when the foreign buyers tax came out. Oh yeah, that foreign buyers tax, that was really good. Yeah, that was a good thing. What are you talking about? The market was already cooling significantly. Oh yeah, but that foreign buyers tax really fixed things. It fixed nothing. It fixed nothing. It was brought in brutally. It was actually a pretty disgusting moment in time. You know, like the contract law, just toss that away. Oh, you wrote a binding contract to purchase a property 3 years ago and it's completing in 3 weeks? Yeah, too bad, come up with another 15% of the purchase price. But why? Well, because you're not a Canadian citizen. But I've been here for 6 years on a work visa and my permanent resident status application is in, but it's been in for like 10 months and I'm actually gonna become a Canadian citizen, I think, this year. Yeah, too bad. Hit us 15% extra. Where am I supposed to get that from? I'm buying a $300,000 condo that I'm putting $60,000 down on already. Like, where am I supposed to come up with another $45,000 next week? Figure it out, man. You're a foreigner, you must be rich. A foreigner? I came here from Seattle. Like I grew up here for a few years back and forth and I'm here to work with Microsoft. I'm like a 26-year-old kid from Seattle. Like, I'm a foreigner? Yeah, no, you're a foreigner, you're a foreign buyer. You're bad news, you're a problem. That's what we did, you know? And hey, now I'm shifting over into blog topics, but putting that info out there and putting it out there with this kind of math is important. You are the guide, you are the expert, you are the one who's been there, done that, right? Been there, done that. You are the client's Sherpa. You're supposed to do the heavy lifting. You're supposed to do the work. The good news is you make as much money closing one mortgage file as these poor guys do hiking with backpacks the size of a Volkswagen. I mean, look at this guy. I'm lucky if I can carry one ladder around. This guy's got like 10 ladders on his back. I can't even get past that one. So these guys, right, they go to the peak of Everest and back and forth all year long for $5,000. All you got to do is complete one mortgage, more or less, in the average Canadian space. So act like it. Carry the load. Do the extra work. Do the extra work. Explain the risks to the client. that aren't being explained to them. Do the math around those risks. What clients think is happening in the background is that 32 people are sitting around a conference table debating on whether or not to approve their mortgage. That is not what's happening, right? That is not what's happening. This is not a mortgage client file review. What clients have is you. You. So be better, and master these conversational math shortcuts, right? Learn to flow them in smoothly. So what if we go $10,000 higher, $40 per month? Oh, really? Like, boom, right? 36 to 44 right now, yeah, I know. But being able to do that conversationally is very powerful. It's very powerful with your clients. You sound like you know what you're talking about. The digital business card. For those of you that have the mobile mortgage app on your phone, that is your digital business card. Every time your client goes to do some math of their own, every time they go to calculate a payment, they see your face, they see your contact data. Forward that thing out, because that is today's business card. That's what it boils down to. And it's a great tool that keeps your phone from ringing at 10 o'clock on a Sunday night, because they can actually figure it out themselves, which is kind of nice as well.